Last year I came to Tasmania. Tasmania was a good escape from a stressful life. I came here in a pretty crazy time. To begin with, I felt a little isolated. Can you imagine? I couldn't attend classes due to COVID. There were restrictions on what I could do and where I could go. But painting, it was one way to create a real connection to the nature. Experiencing the wonder of natural Tasmania has helped me immensely. And I found out that I had the blue sky, which is really beautiful here in Tasmania, and the mountains, the ocean, so I could capture them with my camera and take in the fresh air and the peacefulness. I'd return home and paint all of them. I love to see the nature around me and spend a lot of time painting at home. I just head out whenever I needed a break or to find myself again. And I like to find peace, and it's always been something inside me that wants to help others find it too. So I think a change of environment can change your life and create the drive to help others. I've been volunteering since I was a child. This work motivates me to involved in this area so much. Here, my current studies in Tasmania have given me the chance to do a placement in child and youth services, which involves support for children, young people and their families who are facing multiple challenges. At the moment, I'm a volunteer for the Red Cross. I engage with migrant families who experience domestic violence, and I work in aged care facilities with those who need company and support. My favorite thing to paint is actually the sunset. Here in Tasmania, it's beautiful. Like every season, you have different colors when you see the sunset, especially like winter. I know the sunset is so early, but still, it's beautiful. Yeah. And sometimes I enjoy painting flowers because we have here in Tasmania quite distinct climates every season. So yeah, you can find beautiful flowers, and yeah, I like their colors. So yeah, I think I enjoy painting colorful stuff. I think it is really important to find things that you love to do, to well, engage with your environment in every way, from communities to the nature. So for me, this is the chance to help others and to spend time in the nature. I think I'm quite lucky that I have found all that in Tasmania.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Insider Guides International Student webinar. Now, before we proceed, I just wanted to confirm if you can hear me. So if you guys can just write something in the chat box, then we would know that you guys can hear us. And yeah, and if you can't hear it, just feel free to write that in the chat box as well. Awesome. Seems like you guys can hear it. So before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures, and to elders both past and present. Let us walk together and take care of earth and water as one. The webinar is brought to life thanks to Study Tasmania. Tasmania is the ultimate study destination where world-class education, modern facilities, vibrant cities, and a safe, island lifestyle combined to open doors to lifelong opportunities. If you're ready to embark on an once in a lifetime journey to live and study in Tasmania, you're in the right place. Unlock your future, and we have given the link in the chat so that you can learn more about Study Tasmania. Just some housekeeping for today's webinar. We would love you to ask questions using the Q&A feature on your screen. And we'll be asking a few polls during the webinar that we are interested in your feedback on. We are really fortunate to have Dominic with us today. Dominic is a TEDx and international speaker and is the head of people and culture at Datarati. He comes with a half a decade experience in the careers and employment space, working with hundreds of top Australian employers, delivering more than 300 employer and industry events, and having deployed 500 plus individuals into work placements. He has spoken on the TEDx stage twice, presented in over 12 countries, and coached professionals from ANZ, Ernst& Young, and Deloitte. Over to you, Dom. Okay, seems like Dom will be with us on the screen in just a minute. Meanwhile, we just, if you guys have any questions about like specifically Tasmania, I remember like before I came here as an international student to Australia, I had a lot of questions. So if you guys have any questions, we would love to answer those questions in the chat box as well. And if you guys have anything about like career related questions or how's the life here as an international student or anything, we're more than happy to answer those questions. Thank you so much, Dom. We can see Dom here, and let's do it.
All right. So, Dev, can you hear me now? Can you hear me and see me now?
I can hear you and see you.
Okay, beautiful. It's just when you need the tech to work, it hangs on you. But nevertheless, we still pivot, we move on. So I just want to say a big thank you to the organizers, Insider Guides, and Study Tasmania, and for everyone else involved. Thank you so much for making the time, doing whatever it takes to invest in your own personal and professional career success. So I'm really pleased to be with you. Really nice to share this moment with you all. So there's going to be some interaction along as we go. So make sure your fingers are peeled on your keyboards because we want to get you interacting and engaging as much as possible. All right, so the first thing is some housekeeping rules. So this is going to be a session whereby we just want to get as much as we can from it as possible. So ask questions. If there's anything on your mind at all, pop it into the chat. All right, so but we'll be leaving some time towards the end for Q&A. So any ideas, any thoughts, just pop it into the chat and then we can have a conversation about it. All right, the other piece of advice is do take down notes. So I have a trusty hard copy notepad here. So whether it's digital or physical, make sure you take down notes. So any insights, any nuggets which jump out from the slides to you, which really resonates with you, you want to capture those moments. All right, so make the most out of this learning opportunity. Moving on. So the next thing which I want you to do is in the chat box, can you pop in where you are dialing in from? So whether it's in Australia, and if so, which part, which city, or whether you're dialing in from overseas. So definitely keen to hear where you're dialing in from. Oh, okay, cool. So we've got people from Brizzy, from Sydney, from India, Indonesia, Tassie itself, Adelaide, Melbourne. All right, amazing. So from different parts and places in the world, really, really nice. So thanks so much for dialing in with us. And it's really nice to spend this time with you. The next piece of activity for you to do is, as we go along through the slides and the materials, if there's any insights which you found really, really useful, pop in AHA into the chat. All right. So if it's something which really resonates with you, just pop in AHA. Or if it's something that in a way it's positively shocking, maybe it's a reality check, something which you've realized it's a mind-blowing moment. All right. So pop in OMG. All right. So because we might come to terms with things which are really new to us. So just pop in your respective responses to it. Okay. Moving on. So just a bit about myself, and thanks so much, Dev, for that amazing introduction. So, and I think this has covered in the bio as well. So I had a chance to speak on the TEDx stage in Melbourne a couple of years ago. And then currently I work as the head of people and culture in Datarati, which is a marketing automation consultancy. So I've always been in the people space all this while, really loving it when I'm working with people, helping them to unleash their potential, working on the careers, employment, and recruitment side of things as well. So I had a chance to coach clients from EY, Deloitte, and ANZ Bank. And on the side, I do love a lot of long distance endurance running. So you can see those are some of the distances I've covered before. My longest being a couple of 100 km ultra marathons. So one of the longest races I did was about 30 to 35 hours. I think it was 103 kilometers without any sleep at all. So I'm just going to share with you some of the insights I've learned from with regards to mental toughness and resilience, just for you to be able to succeed in this very, very interesting world. And then moving on. So these are some of the organizations I had the chance to speak with and to work with before. So top right-hand side is the Tesla office based in Melbourne. Bottom left-hand side is the Google office over in Singapore. And the bottom right-hand side was as part of an African Youth Leadership Summit, which was held in Marrakesh in Morocco. So that is the northern part of Africa. So it's always a privilege and pleasure to be able to travel previously when we could, to meet people from different backgrounds, disciplines, different industries, different occupations as well, different cultures, because as much as I'm talking a lot today, we are learning from each other. All right. So seize the moment, absorb as much as you can like a sponge. And then if there's any questions at all, pop it into the chat. I'm also watching the chat function as we go along. Cool. So today we're going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about why mental resilience and even adaptability is so important, because if you look at the world, you look at what's happening around us, we can already deduce since last year, the world is a very, very different place. All right. So that is one of the core reasons why we need to invest in our personal resilience, future readiness, and adaptability. Number two is the 21st century mindsets. So because when you go to school, you learn what to think. But in life actually demands you to know how to think. So what to think is very different from how to think. So how do you approach the challenges in life? And especially in this fourth industrial revolution, we're going to talk about some of the 21st century mindsets that's required for us to navigate this new world. Number three, how high performers excel when going through adversity. So we know currently right now, it's Olympic season over in Tokyo. But many years back, I had a chance to do a number of interviews with different high performers like the US Navy SEALs, Olympians, elite athletes, fighter pilots, surgeons, and Michelin star chefs. Why these people is because they are able to perform in a very high stress and high pressure environment. All right. So even when the odds are apparently against them, whether it's in a combat environment, whether it's when they're trying to save patients on the operating theater, when things are working, they're working on the clock, how are they able to stay focused and stay set on their goals? All right, so we're going to touch on those. Number four, how you can build up your own personal resilience. So what are some frameworks which you can work on your own resilience in a very practical way? And last but not least, how to disrupt yourself, because we live in a world of change and disruption. And if you don't disrupt yourself, usually something or someone else might come in to disrupt you. So you might as well do it for yourself, because if you wait till that happens, all right, if something else, you wait till something comes in to disrupt you, it might be a bit more painful and more uncomfortable. All right, so it's best to make sure that you are on the edge of your seat, you're always on your toes and always relevant. Okay, so let's just jump straight into the materials and make sure you're taking down as much notes as you can. All right, because we got a few things to cover today. Really exciting. Why mental resilience and adaptability? Because the pace of change is not only increasing, but it is also increasing exponentially. So the pace of change is not increasing linearly, it is increasing exponentially. Right? Things are not just becoming faster, the rate at which it becomes faster, it's even faster. Right? So if you can see on the screen right now, these are some technological marvels and inventions which I'm sure you are all familiar with. Right? And you can see at the bottom are the timelines of how long it took each particular product to gain 50 million users. Okay, so the airline industry, aircraft, 68 years. Automobiles, 62 years. The telephone, 50 years. The television, 22 years. Computer, 14 years. The cell phone and smart devices, 12 years. Facebook, 3 years. Twitter, 2 years. Pokemon Go, 19 days. And I think we know of this famous game app, Angry Birds. I think it's about 34 days. All right, so 34 days for Angry Birds and 19 days for Pokemon Go to reach 50 million users. All right, so it's really incredible. What an exciting and interesting time to live in. So things are really happening around us. The next reason why is because if you look at the world, it is very in a way volatile, in a way uncertain, in a way unpredictable. All right. And the funny thing is that this slide, I have done a similar presentation for corporates. And this slide, I have been using this since last year, and I didn't really have to change this too much. We can see that the world is becoming smaller, it's becoming more and more borderless. Things are becoming more interconnected and intertwined. So when something happens on the other side of the world, for example, if a particular political leader does something, says something, tweets about something, there could be ramifications and a ripple effect on the opposite side of the world and vice versa. So we can see what's happening in the world in terms of the global economy, different political situations, maybe even tension, and obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, so the world is also becoming very interesting with lots of changes and disruptions happening. Okay, this is a very apt example. So 2017, I think it was around October or November, I had a chance to do a similar mental resilience workshop for the finance and brokerage team at NAB. So as part of their team development day. So you can see we were doing it obviously face to face. So all of the teams were there. We broke them up into different clusters for group activities. So you can see we are all having a blast, all right, having a great time. For them taking time off work and for them to be able to bond with their team members and for us to just learn from each other and just have some fun as we go along. So I found this really interesting because after I did this workshop for those teams, and then a few weeks after, maybe just 1 or 2 weeks after the session, when I turned on the news, I saw this. Okay, so NAB at a point of time, they plan to cut 6,000 jobs over the next 3 years in order to increase its profits. So, and I heard that some of the team members in that workshop itself, they were impacted. So I guess the whole lesson about this is that resilience is not just a career skill, it is also a life skill, because we never know what could happen around the corner. We never know what kinds of lemons or even curveballs that life can throw at us. So it's always important for us not just to survive, but to be able to ride the waves of change, to pivot, to adapt, to reinvent yourself. All right. So if adversity comes knocking on your door, how do you respond? How do you even bounce back or even come back stronger from this? right? Which is why resilience is even more important. And one other reason, all right? So life can easily be explained with two circles. Smaller circle is your comfort zone. The larger circle is where the magic happens. So whatever dreams or goals or ambitions which you want to have or which you want to strive for, they are all lying outside of your comfort zone, waiting for you to go get them. All right. So all you have to do is just to get out of your comfort zone, step by step, bit by bit. Okay. And this is how we actually grow as an individual and a professional. The more you step out of your comfort zone, the more the smaller circle starts to intersect and overlap with that magic circle. And that is how you start to see breakthrough, impact, and transformation in your life. All right. So, can anyone tell me? All right. So, pop this into the chat. Which circle is the most dangerous in life? What do you think? All right. Thanks, Harpreet. Anyone else? Or where is the most dangerous place on Earth in that diagram? Any thoughts about that? Okay, Janet says comfort zone. Exactly. So the ironic thing is that the most dangerous place on Earth is the safety of your comfort zone. Right, because once you stay in your comfort zone for too long, you might start to build a bubble around you, and you might start to be like self-obsessed or self-absorbed. You think that everything revolves around you. So that's why it's always important to step out in order to put things into perspective. Okay, very well done. Thanks so much for your input. Okay, so 21st century mindsets. Let me just go through this briefly. So in order to be able to thrive in this brave new world, the way we think and approach different situations has to evolve as well. So going from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset, which I'm sure a lot of us will be familiar with. So do not see yourself as being limited in abilities. See yourself as having the ability to challenge your limits. All right. So if there's a skill gap, all right, find ways to upskill yourself. All right. The next one is going from lack and scarcity and then moving towards looking at things from a wealth and abundance perspective. All right. So even though COVID has actually impacted the world, if you look at the labor market, things are actually changing. Companies are digitalizing and virtualizing their products and services. So there are actually job growth in the tech and digital areas. Right. Number 3, problem obsession, moving towards solutions focus. So don't stress too much about the problem. See the problem for what it is, but also push and move yourself towards finding a solution, doing something about it. Right. Number 4, waiting for the perfect moment versus making the moment perfect. So if you're at a crossroads of your life, if you're sitting on the fence waiting for the perfect moment to seize the opportunity, why not just take the shot? All right. Even if things don't work out, it's still a learning experience. All right. Number 5, feel, decide, act. Most people base their actions and decisions on their feelings, right? So if it's cold outside, if it's wet outside, if it's dark, you don't feel like going to the gym. You don't feel like waking up, all right? And because of that, you stay in bed and then you don't do your workout. But people who are successful, they turn things around. They make the decision first, all right? Despite the weather outside, despite how I feel, I will move my body. I'll get myself out of bed. I'll push myself, wash my face, get into the gym, churn out that workout. So they make the decision, they take action, and then after that, they get to enjoy the good feelings. The feelings will come after that. All right. So see how you can turn the tables on its head. Yes, can see some aha moments. So that's really good. The next thing is entitlement. Entitlement, moving from entitlement to enlightenment. All right. So this really helped me because I used to think that having a master's degree, I was the king of the universe, that every employer will come to me begging me to work with them. Not really true. So instead of coming with the entitlement mindset, why not enlighten your mind? Focus on empowerment, what you can do about it, how much value you can bring to the table, what you can offer. Okay. Working smart and not hard, but moving towards working smart and hard. So execution, implementation is as equally important as strategy and perspective, right? Changing the past, moving towards changing, creating the future, right? A lot of people tend to want things to change, or they live in the good old days, but people who are successful, they are actually focused on the future. They realize that there are certain things they can control to actually craft the future which they desire. Moving on, close and self-minded, moving towards being global-minded. All right, because we are all global citizens. We live in a world that is becoming increasingly borderless. All right, so how can you be part of this global conversation? How can you be relevant in this global economy? Slow decisions and long cycles, evolving towards making fast decisions in lean cycles. So what we mean by this is, instead of taking a long time to make a decision, if it's not mission critical, if it's not the end of the world, why not make it quickly? Take action, learn from it. If it fails, that's fine. All right. So make sure your cycle times are very lean, so that you can get back onto your feet faster. Right. Instead of dwelling on the problem, dwelling on the mistake, dwelling on the situation. Right. So learn from it, find your next plan of attack, your next course of action, and then go from there. Okay, so hope this has been helpful so far, just to actually help you to start to shape your mindset, to sharpen your mind, and to give you some tools on how to think as you're being presented with different scenarios, situations, and challenges. Right, so these are some things which you can take with you. Okay, the next section is also very interesting. So how high performers excel when going through adversity. So people like those in the US Navy SEALs, how Olympians, surgeons, fighter pilots, how do they perform in a high pressure when things are very stressful, when things are when the stakes are really high? How are they still able to remain level-headed and still be able to perform? Okay, that's the magic question. So one of the strategies they use is this: segmenting. So segmenting is basically breaking a very huge, daunting task into its smaller bits, right? So if you look at the picture here, it's basically different components of a digital camera. So the camera itself is a very complex piece of machinery, but once you strip it down into its constituent elements, then you can start to examine and study each one of them. So like you have the main casing or the chassis, the lens, the processor, the microchip, and all that. All right. So you break it down and then you start to attack them or tackle them. Right. So to give you an example, um, I wonder if anyone in this call has had the opportunity to organize a wedding. So maybe your best friend got married, so that person has asked you to organize, to be the wedding planner, literally. All right. So if you had the privilege, pop in yes in the chat. If not, that's fine. But I'm sure we all had the chance to go for a wedding ourselves. All right. So a wedding is a very, very complex project. It's only mainly one day, that big day itself, but leading up to the big day. Oh, Jessica, thanks so much for sharing. Yep. So for those who have had the experience of helping out, volunteering, or even planning, organizing that big event, you'll know what this means, right? So there's so many moving parts in the wedding, and sometimes the wedding itself, it could be like life. There's the different challenges we face. There's so many complexities and variables. All right, but in order for us to actually start to break it down into segment it, these are the different components of a wedding. All right, so venue, catering, right? Someone's got to you got to book the physical space, book the food, Make sure you cater to different dietary requirements and all that. The budget, of course. Photography, music, DJ, flowers, decor, the attire. So what is the dress code you want for the groomsmen, the bridesmaid, all that. Transportation. Yeah, you gotta get like a chauffeur maybe, right? Stationery. So at the front desk where you usually have like a sign-in like this giant book where people can put in their best wishes and all that. Stationery, favors as well. So if you're asking people maybe to be a wedding singer, you got to organize that, and the cake as well. So many things to consider. Can be a big headache as well. So if you are trying to wrap your head around this complex challenge or this project, like wedding planning, all right? So how to actually wrap your head around it is to start to break it down into its constituent parts, all right? So the wedding planning is a big task. Break it down. So venue and catering, all right? So look at that. And if it's too challenging, you break it down even further. All right. So venue, what kind of venue are you looking at? Do you need a dance floor? Maybe like an area for people to move in after the reception and all that. So what kind of spaces are you looking? How far from the city and all that? Yep. So once you break it down even further, it will start to help you be able to process it better. Okay. Cool. The next thing is visualization. So visualization simply means seeing something mentally before you see it physically. So if you want to deliver a confident presentation in front of a client or in front of the interviewer, visualize yourself going through the process, visualize yourself being very articulate, very confident and competent during the situation itself. So this is really important because even Olympians do it. So there was an interview conducted on Michael Phelps's coach. So Michael Phelps is obviously one of the best swimmers in the world, and the coach said that before Michael goes into the pool, right? When he's standing on that block before the gun goes off, Michael is actually able to visualize the exact number of strokes it takes to get to the end of the pool and back again. So he has pretty much done the race in his mind before he did it with his body. So he's already won the race. All right. So whatever challenges you face, all right, it's easy if you don't discipline your mind. It's easy for the mind to focus on the worst case scenario. But instead, why not challenge yourself to focus on your ideal or intended scenario instead? All right. So visualize how it will look like, how you want the job interview to look like, how you want your future career to look like. All right. So the more you visualize it, the more you'll prime your mind to look out for opportunities to help you achieve it. Okay. So that is how visualization can help you. The next one, front sight focus. All right, so you can see this soldier with a rifle. So for example, if you're going to a rifle range and you want to hit a target downrange, so what you want to do is first of all locate the target, and then if you can see the picture here, that person is looking through the scope of the rifle. So what it means is that if you want to find the target, you look at it, you face the target. But if you want to hit the target accurately, you need to look through the sights. All right, so that you can actually focus in on the target. Because if you don't develop the ability to focus, it's easy to be scatterbrained. It's easy to be distracted by the noise and sometimes the confusion and the hysteria around you. If you turn on mass media, if you keep watching the news, it's easy to go into a downward spiral. All right, because there's so much negativity along there. There is so much. It's easy for us to go into hysteria. All right. So instead, focus on what you need to do that is right ahead of you. All right. So keep your eyes on the prize and stay in your lane. All right. So I think there was a question about we can't see the picture of the rifle. So just visualize that picture. So the most important thing is to actually grab the principle. Okay. So front side focus, keep your eyes on the prize and stay in your lane. But can everyone else see the text? That's actually the most important. So even if you can't see the picture, that is fine. If you can see the text, that is the most important. Okay. Okay, so building up foundational resilience. So how can you as an individual build up resilience in your life, which you can also apply in your career? All right. There are practical ways on how you can build up resilience for yourself. And let me just show you this very simple and straightforward framework. Okay, the whole slide was delayed, but it is visible. Okay, very nice, very nice. So appreciate your patience for some of the minor technical glitches. Okay, the DRIVE framework. So DRIVE is an acronym: decision, relationships, identity, visualization, and execution. So when you are in a very tough situation, you can apply this framework. Or if you are in a situation where things are going fine for you, you can still apply this, all right, to build up your resilience. So what do we mean by each component of the framework? So decision. Decision is all about making a commitment, making up your mind. When you make a decision, you are actually drawing a line in the sand. You are entering a psychological contract with something or someone. So that someone could be with your best friend, if you made a promise or a commitment with them, or if you've made a commitment to yourself, that someone is you. Right? So this is really powerful, because if you don't make the decision, people who are undecided, they're sitting on the fence, they are more easily swayed when circumstances change. For example, if you have to submit your assignment tonight, and assuming if you can go out and have some drinks or hang out with your friends, if you haven't really decided to um, get your assignment done, what tends to happen when your friends ask you to go out? You'll be like, okay, why not, right? Just go out for a meal, just go out for one drink and all that, and you see how it goes, all right? And that could lead to a different outcome, you spending more time outside and the assignment is still not done. But what happens if you've made your mind in advance that come hell or high water, you will finish your assignment, then you can enjoy yourself. So when your friends ask you to go out, you will tend to stand your ground, because you've already made that decision. You've already made a commitment to yourself that you want to just finish this assignment, and then after that you can relax. Okay, so decision, making a commitment. So you can fill up the sentences here. All right. So some of these examples. So I will XYZ. I will start working out more frequently. I'm going to make it a point to be grateful for what I have, or I'm going to attend more networking events. I'm going to be more active on LinkedIn. I'm sick and tired of. Okay, so I'm sick and tired of being lethargic. I'm sick and tired of being lazy or unmotivated. Or I'll stop. What will you stop? I'll stop watching. I'll stop sleeping so late at night. I'll stop binging on Netflix. I'll stop shopping impulsively online. Uh, could be something like that. So it could be something very specific or a bit more general. So whatever that is more suited to your situation. Okay. So the most important thing is to just make that decision first, whether it's for your personal health, well-being, personal fitness, your finance, your relationships, your career. Right. So if it's your career, you can say things like, I'm going to secure a job in the next 3 to 6 months. That could be a commitment as well. Right. So you make a promise to yourself. All right. What do we have next? Relationships. So the next part is R, relationships. So people who are successful in life, they're successful because of their relationships. So it's all about asking who can help you or hold you accountable. Right. So it could be your best friend holding you accountable. So like if you want to make a commitment to finish the semester with the best grades, for example, or to secure that work placement, that work experience, to finish up the internship, you can either make that commitment and decision with your friend, you can do it with your supervisor, you can do it with a colleague, someone who you trust, right? And someone who can also have your back and watch your back as well, right? Because when you know that there's someone who's watching over you, you tend to be more resilient because that person will be holding you to your word. Right? So if you made a promise to your personal trainer that you meet that person there in the gym for the workout, you are more inclined to follow through with that commitment versus you not having this arrangement. Right, so leverage the power of relationships, especially if you're discouraged, because having people around you is also a moral and social buffer. All right, it can actually help you to cushion the blows in life, all right, and to keep you going forward. Okay, relationships. The next one is identity. So whether you want to be the one who is influenced by your circumstances, or do you want to be the one who influences your circumstances? So you can either think of life as things happening to you or life as things happening because of you. Right? So there is a big distinction here. So success doesn't happen to you. Success happens because of you. So despite the fact that there's many things beyond our control, there are still a number of things within our control. All right. So whether you want to choose to see yourself as being the recipient of things happening to you, or whether you want to rise up, elevate yourself, push yourself, challenge yourself to be able to take charge and ownership of your situation. All right. So this is one key way to be resilient. Visualization. So we go back to this again. So what does success look like and how are you getting there? So when you, for example, if your goal is to secure a career, a meaningful career, talk about the specifics. How does it look like? What kind of colleagues would you want to work with? What kind of clients you want to work with? What kind of projects you want to work on? What kind of industries you want to be in? What kind of skills you want to develop as well? So the more specific you can be, the better. It's just like if you want to purchase a home, right? Um, it's not really enough to say that you just want to buy your first home. So the more specific you can be, the better it is, so that your mind can start to help you to look out for things which are aligned to your goals. Okay. Very nice. Execution. This is the last part. So there is a big difference between people who are interested versus those who are committed. All right. So people who are interested will do things because it's trendy or because they feel like it, because it's popular. But people who are committed will do whatever it takes to make it happen. All right. So the most important thing is, what are you going to do about it? Right, so you've made the decision, you've got people to hold you accountable, you see yourself as the one who can influence your circumstances, you're able to visualize your desired outcomes. So now the question is, what are some practical things are you going to do about it? So if your goal is to secure meaningful employment, what are some things can you do about it? Maybe can you see a career coach? Can you attend industry events? Can you go for networking events? Can you brush up your LinkedIn profile? Can you connect with recruiters on LinkedIn? Start to have more of these conversations. So it's really, really being practical and focusing on the implementation, making things happen. Right? All right. This is one of the final sections, and it's one of my favorite ones. So how do you disrupt yourself? How do you constantly stay ahead of the game? How do you remain competitive and relevant in this very saturated and disruptive landscape? So there is actually a model which you can use, and let me just share this with you. So this is a very simple graph of growth and performance versus time. Okay, so I call this the S curve. So whatever we do in life, whether you're doing it for the first time or whether you are a seasoned expert in that area, any form of skill, capability, or competency tends to follow this S curve. Right? So growth and performance over time, it generally increases. All right, but the way it increases is interesting. Okay, so the first stage is infancy. The second stage is engagement development, and the last phase is maturity or mastery. Right? So imagine you're learning how to drive for the first time in your life. You're obviously in the inexperience and infancy stage. You have no idea of operating a vehicle. You have never sat on the driver's seat before. So imagine you sitting on the driver's seat, looking at the dashboard, looking at all the dials, the levers, the indicators, and all that. It is pretty overwhelming. All right, everything feels foreign to you, and then maybe for your first lesson, you are being taught on how to engage the gear, turn on the engine, even play around with the signals and all that. So it's just getting you up to speed. So you go for your lessons a few times, and you start to increase your competency. All right. So after doing that couple of times, 10, 20 hours at least, then you go into the engagement or development phase. Then things start to become a bit more familiar to you. You're able to switch lanes, check your blind spots, start to park the car, all right, with the instructor beside you. So it starting to become more familiar and comfortable, and the rate of growth, all right, in terms of your skill, it's increasing as well. Right, so this is development phase, is where the most growth happens, and then after that you go into the maturity phase. So this is when you're most likely comfortable and ready to take your driving test. Right, it's almost like second nature to you. You can drive and even have a conversation with your instructor beside you. Okay, so infancy, development, and maturity. So this is how we tend to grow mainly in terms of our skills. You can see the rate of growth for the same amount of time is different. So at the infancy stage is very low. All right, you're literally clawing your way, crawling and clawing your way, and then after that it starts to increase. And then after that, it starts to cool off a bit. So when you're in the maturity phase, there isn't much growth for the same amount of effort you've put in. The danger with the mastery and maturity phase, if we stay there for too long, is we end up in complacency and stagnation. All right, you stay in the same role, do the same things over and over again. You don't try anything else. You might start to slip into complacency and stagnation, and this is where it becomes really, really dangerous, especially in today's disruptive world. So, what can you do about it? Simple. You create a new S curve. So which means that the maturity phase of the old S curve will be the starting point of the new S curve. All right, so just take a few seconds to process this. All right, so where you are at when you are a master or even an expert in a particular skill set, maybe that is time to take on something else where you are an absolute beginner. Okay, and eventually it looks like this. So this is called skill stacking. So you have your initial skill, which is the blue curve. Then you stack on the orange one. Once you're competent in that, you stack the green one on top of that. All right. So how does this apply in the real world? So for example, you are a marketing professional. Maybe the first S curve is you taking on the Google Analytics short course. All right, so once you are done with that, you are heading towards the end point of the S curve, the maturity phase of the S curve. Sorry, maturity point, and then from there, it's time to have a new S curve. Then you learn copywriting, and likewise, once you are really familiar with that, then you go into consumer psychology. Okay, so this means that you're always pushing yourself, you're always learning something. You are never resting on your laurels. And you notice that all these skills are related to your core marketing expertise. So whether it's secondary or complementary skills, things that can complement and add on to your existing skill set. right? So this is how you can constantly disrupt yourself and always remain competitive. Okay, this is a very, very inspiring news article which I saw not too long ago. So meet the 85-year-old person who's studying AI and humans in the workforce. So the moral of this story is you're never too young, never too old, never too late, never too early to invest in yourself. All right. So the excuses we make is only valid if we make them. All right. So we can either make excuses or we can actually execute and make things happen. And one of the last few slides I have is this. So we've covered a lot of content today. So I just want to leave this last quote with you from Mark Twain. So he says this: 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, and discover. So the whole point of this is to just remind us that at the end of the day, the greatest pain in life is not the pain of failure, it's not the pain of discipline, it's not the pain of rejection, it's not the pain of disappointment. It is the pain of regret. Because one day we will be an old person, 80, 90 years old, sitting down on the rocking chair, looking back at the moment where we had that opportunity where we could have taken that shot. And if you didn't take the shot, you missed the opportunity. When you are sitting on that rocking chair, it might just haunt you. The pain and the sting of regret will be very, very real. So the whole point of this is live an epic life. Go for it, take action, take the shot, give it a shot. The worst thing that could happen is you fail, but it's still a learning experience. So if it's an epic fail, it's a great story for the grandkids. If it's an epic win, it's also a great story for the grandkids. All right. So always approach life, your situation, your circumstances with the right mindset. It's either you earn or you learn. So it's always win-win. If you succeed, you earn from the situation. If not, you learn from the situation. Okay. All right. What is my next slide? Yes, it is questions time. And Dev, I can see you now. Should I unshare my screen? Yes, I think I pause my screen sharing. Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. I just love that. I had definitely came across the quote of Mark Twain before, but I had never heard someone say either you earn or you learn, which makes so much sense, right? And when you were saying that, like these are the things that we always tell ourselves that these are the things that we want to do, but it's just the leap of faith, and that faith we have to put in ourselves. And I don't think it is very easy to do that, but the way you were explaining things, it was really inspiring. So thank you so much for that. And based on that, following a lot of things that you discussed, there are a couple of questions that our audience have asked. So one of the questions that I really liked was, and that question is asked by Irfan from Indonesia. And the question is, how could we build a positive mindset while the stress level is high? How exactly do we do that?
So that's a very good question. And I guess one thing that could help is always put things into perspective. So always try and challenge yourself to see the bigger picture. So if you're going through the job search phase, which I went through myself, 1.5 years of joblessness, being rejected by employers 526 times. So sometimes it's really tough. And what you can do is perspective. And number two is being practical. So what are some small action steps you can do to actually bring you closer to your goal? So instead of just being paralyzed by fear or by uncertainty, start to take baby steps towards your goal.
Okay, that really helps. So, for example, the same example that you gave. So, if I am applying for jobs right now, Okay. Or, let's say I'm applying for jobs like 6 months down the line, I'm studying right now, and I'm not getting a lot of interviews. And this happens to a lot of international students. This happened to me. It happens to almost every international student. So what are the steps? So what are those baby steps that somebody like me who is in the last semester applying for jobs or have just graduated should take?
Yeah, so I totally understand how that feels because I was a former international student myself. So if you've been doing something consistently and you haven't had much results, maybe it's time to examine your approach and strategy. So look at your strategy, find ways to innovate. So to give you an example, when I was really struggling to find work, what I did differently was I started a careers magazine with a friend, and
Okay.
through that magazine, we managed to reach a number of universities. I got a chance to do careers workshops in Melbourne Uni and RMIT. And through that, I built up my passion for public speaking. So by the time I secured an interview for a business and management trainer position, I was able to actually speak from experience that this was what I'd done about my situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. And I think one of the things that I also believe is that international students just should like try something that is in their hand, and that they should not wait to do that. Even small projects, even not for money, just to acquire some skills. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I have another question as well. It is from Jesse Rose from Philippines. What strategies can international students use in order to maintain a positive mental health whilst finding new or sustainable jobs during the pandemic? So I guess we're talking about the action plans here.
Yes. So I always like action plans because it's very important for us to be practical. Like resilience and adaptability will only come to play when it's being applied, when it's being exercised. So what we mean by this is if you are navigating this whole uncertain space,
Yeah.
what are some things you can do practically? So for example, if you're about to graduate, make it a point to attend, for example, X number of careers or industry events per week. Make
Okay.
sure your LinkedIn profile is professionally done up. Make sure you are actively having conversations and approaching recruiters, even if they don't have much to offer you in terms of jobs, but build up that confidence, build up
Yeah.
that kind of guts to reach out to them, and then you also build up your communication skills, and as a result of that, you'll boost your personal brand. And if they can't hire you, maybe they'll know someone who can hire you.
Yeah. Now that's really good. I think so. I hope all the listeners they are taking notes right now, because a couple of important things that you mentioned was, number one, how important it is to have a good LinkedIn profile, because recruiters will be checking LinkedIn profile whenever you apply for jobs. Another thing was that you just mentioned was that talking to recruiters even when they do not have to offer you, because that builds up your confidence, and that confidence is going to play a major role. One of the things that I had done when I was looking for my first job, and I was also in a similar situation where I graduated, I don't have a job, and then panic starts building up. So first month you're not panicking, second month you're panicking a little, and then slowly it starts building.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
one of the things that I was doing was, I would just call up whenever I apply. I would just call up recruiters, and I would just introduce myself, like nothing else, but I just wanted them to know that there's somebody out there who is like ready to go above and beyond. Yeah, so that had definitely helped me.
Exactly. It's all about having the action-oriented approach.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. So moving on to the next question. This is from Akiko. So I'll just read out the question. So while I was listening about the drive framework, especially decision, I wondered how many decisions I should make at one time. I assume that making many decisions at one time could be unrealistic to achieve goals, but at the same time, just making one decision might be too few. Do you have any advice or insights?
Okay, so I'd rather you make one decision and then follow through all the way to execution and then you see possible results than you making many decisions and you just stopping short halfway or being inconsistent.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you just want to work on your communication skills, which some international students, you might find it challenging.
Yeah.
So maybe the simple decision is every week I need to attend one networking event or one career or employee event. And in that event, I must ask a question verbally instead of popping into the chat box. So that's my KPI or that's my success metric. I do that consistently for at least 3 months. And then
Right.
you reassess your communication skills from there. You'll be surprised, like small baby steps accumulated over time is a big
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. 100%. I love that. Do you have any examples, some of the things that you are working on right now?
So I like to post content onto
Okay.
LinkedIn. So I think that's also whether you're an employer, professional, or job seeker, the more you post on LinkedIn, obviously post things which are relevant and valuable. That's how you get into conversations with other professionals in your field or people who are like-minded. So
Yeah.
I make it a point to post once at least a day. So one every
Oh,
day. Yeah. So once you get into a habit of things, the results will eventually come. So whether it's something like that, or even for myself, I make it a point to exercise, to pray, or to meditate in the morning to get myself
wow.
in the right headspace
Okay.
before I face the challenges of the day.
Yeah, that is so good. And there is no doubt how much meditation helps. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll just take the last question because I'm conscious of the time as well. But this is a really good question. That's why I just wanted to address this. So I'm again just going to read out the question. Hi, I am William from Indonesia. I have a question regarding work life. What if an international student, and I have never had work experience before, what do you suggest for me to take my first step for looking for a job? Since most of the places would ask for a job experience, which is a really good question.
Okay, so that is the ultimate um, catch 22 question, the chicken and egg question.
Yeah.
You need experience to get a job, you need the job to get experience.
Yeah.
So the way to hack this whole thing is either to find internships or work experiences within your studies. So I think there are platforms where you can do online work experiences, like I think it was called Online Sherpa or Forage now.
Mm,
Look at that. Look at online volunteering.
mm,
Also, look at extracurricular activities, student clubs, student societies. So explore those avenue. Work part time if you can.
mm,
Cafes, restaurants, and all that. Or also, if you want to create your own opportunities, like start your
mm,
own side hustle. So, for example, if you're a software developer or software engineer, what some have done is they build up their profile on GitHub. They post
mm,
their programming code on GitHub. Maybe they'll create their own website. They
mm,
create their own mobile application,
mm.
your own little site or pet projects, so that
Okay.
it's visible evidence of you exercising your skills.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is again. I really hope that everybody is taking notes as well because it is really important. You're saying such important points so casually, but they're like so important to have something because some of the things that I did in my university has helped me get jobs after I graduated.
Hmm.
So yeah, and it just with the whole new era, it has become really easy to like find opportunities or take freelancing projects or just like take freelancing projects for half the price because you're not doing it for money, you're doing it for the experience that you want. But yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for all the advices. Do you have any final advice for all the listeners out there?
I think the final piece of advice is to just give it a shot. Uh, Even if you feel scared, even if it's scary, you're sitting on the edge of your seat, you're wondering whether it'll work out or not. Have the bigger picture in mind, because at the end of the day, things will generally work out. So do what you can within your means, control the controllables, and also just enjoy the process. Reach out to your other friends who are in the same boat as you. Reach out to your friends who are ahead of you, who have actually made it, so that you can constantly get that some insights and inspiration from them. But I also want to give a shout out to Tasmania itself, because I was there, I think, when I was still studying. I had a chance to go there for a short break. So I've been to Hobart, Launceston, Devonport, and also
Wow.
Cradle Mountain. So if you just want to experience, if you haven't been to Tassie, do make a trip once we can go cross border and all that, because it is really an amazing place. You just surround yourself by the beauty and the landscape around you, and also you never know what kind of amazing opportunities are there, not just for study but also for work. So I'm sure Study Test, they have a lot of resources. So do reach out to them if you're keen or have any questions.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for the amazing insights that you shared, and the experiences that you have shared. Thank you so much, audience, for joining us and taking all the insights and taking all the notes and asking so many questions, because this is the time for us to learn from Dominic today, who has such amazing experiences. So thank you so much for joining. If you guys haven't visited studytasmania.tas.gov.au, we would recommend go and visit that website and learn more about Study Tasmania. Thank you for joining.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe, take care, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Yeah.